Councilmember Panduro,
Here.
Councilmember Tonneson,
Here.
Councilmember Vaccaro is absent, Councilmember Williams,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bertani,
Here.
and Mayor Moy.
I'm here. And our invocation tonight will be presented by Pastor Jonathan Beauvais of Calvary Chapel, Solano. Hi, Pastor.
Let's pray. Oh Lord, great and awesome God, thank you so much for this evening that we get to come and have the right to discuss our rights and discuss this beautiful city of Fairfield. I just want to declare the name of Jesus, who is the truth, who is the way to life. I just want to pray for the city of Fairfield. Lord, that you would protect the people, that you would bless the people. I pray for the police officers, give them wisdom and protection as they are serving this city. I pray for the firefighters that, Lord, you would bless them and protect them. I pray for this council, Lord. I pray that you would give them wisdom above their understanding to make these decisions for this city. I pray, Lord, for the youth of Fairfield. I pray that you would protect them. There are so many who are struggling with depression, anxiety. Lord, I pray that you would just give them peace, that you would comfort them. I pray that you would bring the right people in place that can help the kids of this next generation. So, Lord, we just want to thank you for everything that you've given us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. And City Attorney, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. And we'll go to council reports, and we'll go with Vice Mayor Bertani first, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. I will keep my comments brief. I first want to give a shout out to Liberty Church. They had a community health fair at Liberty on Saturday, and it was really a job well done, and it required much coordination and offered significant services to anybody who walked on campus, basically. And so they had a mobile health clinic and food and appointments for doctors and optometrists. It was amazing. So shout out to Pastor Christian Bravo at Liberty Church for spearheading and organizing that event. It was really well done. It was the first annual, and it will be the first of many more to come. So thank you for that. And we had a Clergy Action Network, or Fairfield Can, ice cream social last week. It was great. Lots of good ice cream and lots of good discussion about, guess what? Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is coming.
Ow. Yeah.
So we are planning our 4th annual Thanksgiving meal to take place on the week before Thanksgiving. It's going to be Tuesday, the 19th of November at noon at Willow Hall. And once again, we will be serving up fresh, delicious, hot meals. Hopefully, Latan will be singing the Lord's Prayer once again. He's here, so I know he heard me. And, and so anybody interested in volunteering for our 4th annual Thanksgiving meal, or donating a turkey or two, because we will be using a smoker that Sam Morris's church has, Bay North Church. The smoker's about as long as this room, so he cooks about 80 turkeys at a time, and these turkeys are delicious. So anybody who wants to donate a frozen turkey or two, please just go to CAN's website, and that is fairfieldclergyactionnetwork.com, fairfieldclergyactionnetwork.com, and all the information will be there. And if you're interested, please join us in any capacity that you see fit. That is my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
That was a good one. I cannot wait for that turkey again this year. I started drooling when you were talking. Councilwoman Panduro.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I have just a few announcements. So over this last week, several of us attended the very exciting ribbon cutting we have 3 new all-electric buses in the city. And so we got to go to ribbon cutting. We also got to ride the bus, which was very quiet, and it was really nice and very different, I think, to a lot of the school buses that a lot of us were used to riding, and just buses in general. So it's really exciting to see our city taking charge and being innovative when it comes to having the goal of 100% zeroing emission by 2040. So very excited, and congratulations to all who were involved in that endeavor, and will continue to do so. Also, some of us also attended, we have a new open space park in the city. So I'm gonna say the full name because it is important that we always say these in the full name. Patwino Wortla Kodoy Dihi Open Space Park. It is located It is located on 2061 Rockville Drive, so almost right across from Rockville Park, and it means Patwin Southern Rock Home. It is 15 acres of park with 14 miles. It's open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and you can take your e-bike up there. It is also ADA accessible, so there is a loop trail up there that is graded, that is accessible for wheelchairs and walkers. So it's a really awesome thing that they have. And the other great part about it is that it connects to the Bay Area Ridge Trail. So now that is also extended through our city. And it's special for me too because 5 years ago, I attended the groundbreaking, I think, for the parking lot, and Mayor Price, who's now passed, was there. And so I have a picture of him and I and Mayor Alma Hernandez there for that groundbreaking. And so to get to go back 5 years later and see it open and just see the community that it brought together that day was really awesome. So I encourage everyone out there to go visit. And again, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. It's a really awesome and beautiful park. And also I wanted to bring up, if I could get, there, I'm hoping to update the council handbook. I know we have some new policies that have come in play and some policies that need to be updated before any new council members get sworn in January. So I'm hoping that we can go ahead and review the council handbook. And I don't mind being on the committee again. If I could get one of my colleagues to support me on that, that would be great. Okay, Patrice? Awesome.
Go get them, girls.
All right, thank you. And then lastly, if I could ask if we can close in honor of Candy Pierce. So she is the PAC's Executive Director of Casa of Solano. She was the Executive Director for 14 plus years, and she was also very involved in many various local organizations, including Rotary, Red Cross, just to name a few. So if we could just close in her honor, that would be appreciated.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman, of course. Thank you very much. And Councilman Doug, who's out of order, sir, you're out of order. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, Mayor, I don't have a report for this time because I'm out of order. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I got confused.
All right. Councilman Tonneson.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, again, we all go to a lot of events. I was at FAST with Kat and Kay Patrice and Doris. So it was a really wild affair. They had the music blaring and the girls were dancing, and so it was a fun time. I also attended the opening of My Happy Place. It's over on 321 Texas Street, up next to the burger joint across from Armio. What is it? Monsoon. Really nice place, really friendly people. If you get a chance, give it a try. This Friday is our pickleball tournament, the national pickleball tournament, the one of 5 that are throughout the United States. So if anybody wants to join, it starts at, George, 9 o'clock on Friday. So come on out and join us there. And that's about all for me. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to say that Red Top Road the expansion is complete and it's wonderful, and the district really appreciates it. I know they do. And And I just love that you were able to just push that forward, Mayor. You know, we were just kind of going with it, and just whenever it got ready, it got ready, and you're the one that kind of pushed the button and brought it out to be presented on, and we just kind of, the council pushed it through, and I just wanted to say thank you for that. And it was, and it completed before school started. I want to say, you, City Manager, and also Public Works, I know that you pushed it up the hill, so thank you very much. You're right, we do all go to a lot of the same events before you all come in. We're on the dais trying to figure out who's gonna announce what event. So I want to announce an event that I went to in Benicia. It was at the Benicia Library, and it was presented by the League of Women Voters, Solano County. It was a play that was a one-woman play by Linda Wright on Fannie Lou Hamer. And embarrassingly enough, it was the first time I'd heard so much about Fannie Lou Hamer. I knew she was a part of civil rights history, but I didn't really know her story. But it was a special story because she was a civil rights activist, but a voter rights activist. And she lived in a time where Black people couldn't vote. We tried to be registered, and we would be turned down. We would be given unfair, weird literacy tests that no one else had to take. So many of us were declined. So out of 100, two people would pass and get their voter registration card. And so she finally got hers and really led for voting rights to be a thing. And 60 years ago, this month, she went to the Democratic National Convention and demanded that there be Black participation at the DNC. Weird enough, she was the first person that ever did that. And she didn't, she wasn't heard then, but for the next DNC convention she was. So this amazing woman, I stand on her shoulders. Many of us stand on her shoulders, no matter what your ethnic and demographic background is. We get to vote. If you're 18 and over, you get to register to vote. And so with that, I want us all, whether you're here today or listening later, we get to register to vote, get everyone in your house to vote. It matters. It matters. Thank you.
That was fantastic. I'll have to read about her now. Wow. It made me tear up a little bit. Well, I don't have anything like that. But I will say that on September 14th, which is coming up, from 9 to 2 p.m., the city is giving away free compost. So at the Donnell Nature Park, and that's over in your district, Missy. So that'll be, I think, I'm gonna be there. I have to get some compost.
Say hello to the peacocks for me.
Don't. That's probably where the compost was made from. And then the other thing, I just want to follow up with what Councilwoman Williams was saying, and that is that about voting. I'm not running this time, thank goodness, but I want to thank everybody who has stepped forward and put their name in the hat, so to speak. It is a tough thing to do, and it could be thankless, it could be scary, and what I'm going to ask people to do, because I hear and see things on social media, don't say ugly things about other people. One thing that I know about in Fairfield is that we don't like that here at all. Don't do it. What you do is you suppress voters. People just go, I don't want to be involved with that at all, and that makes people not want to go vote. So if you're a candidate or anybody else, don't tear down another candidate. Tell us what you're going to do. You know, we hear enough of this up at the presidential, and it's like, you know, you just want to put earplugs in. But I'm thankful for the folks who do it, who get out there, and even if they're not successful here, they successfully have done something. They've moved the bar forward and raised some things that maybe others wouldn't have. So I just want to thank them, and also the folks who volunteer and sit on our commissions. We have a commissioner here tonight, and it just has been weighing on me how much people give of themselves, and we never hear their names, but they're out there every day. And I'm just really thankful, and I wanted to say that. So I guess that's all the preaching I'm going to do. But let's be nice to each other. And again, if you have something ugly to say, just don't. Just don't. We don't want to hear it. Given that, only nice things there, Mr. City Manager. What do you got?
I've always got nice things to say. Friday night, we have the second to last summer concert series concert. Originally scheduled for the county lawn downtown, so if you've seen any of the advertisements, it might say that. However, in light of the pickleball tournament going on at Allen Witt, the concert has moved. It'll be over at Allen Witt Park to coincide with the pickleball event tournament as well. So that is Wake the Neighbors, and I figure at Allen Witt Park, right next door to Neighbors, we will be waking up some neighbors. So we'll make them come on out and enjoy the summer concert as well. That's all I have, Mayor. No changes to the agenda.
Thank you. And Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In a matter taken by the council and previously approved in the workers' compensation matter of Dustin Joseph versus the City of Fairfield, the Workers' Comp Appeal Board approved a settlement in case number ADJ 147-23686, and that can be found on the Workers' Comp Appeals Board website. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Madam Clerk.
Well, I was just gonna piggyback off of you, Mayor, about the Compost Day giveaway. So the City of Fairfield and Public Services are holding a free compost giveaway for Fairfield residents from 9 to 2 next Saturday, September 14th at the Donnell Nature Park Education Center located at 3351 Hill Ridge Drive in Fairfield. The compost will be delivered in bulk, and residents should bring their own containers or bags to fill up and take home. Residents can take as much as they need, and it is also a self-serve event, so shovels and gloves will be provided. Also, the master gardeners will be there as well to provide tips and information for residents about compost uses and other horticultural tips. So there are flyers. I put some of these flyers up in the lobby if anybody would like to grab one and take home. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much, and thanks for being here tonight. So now we'll go ahead and move on to presentations. Madam Clerk, if you would, please.
All right, presentations. Homeless Services Division Point in Time Count and End of the Year Update presented by Homeless Services Manager Samantha Burrows.
Okay, good evening.
Hi, Sam.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about two things today. First, we're going to be looking at our fiscal year 23-24 outcomes. So everything that I'm reporting on across departments is for the fiscal year. So I kept it consistent across all departments. And then the point and count data has been released, so we'll be looking at that as well. So first we're going to look at emergency shelter outcomes for this last fiscal year. And just to refresh, there were 4 programs, emergency shelter transitional housing programs. So the Beck Avenue, so BANK, so that's abbreviation, which is also known as Shelter Solano. Change in New Beginnings, can be Mission Solano Help Project, that's our pallets. Which opened in September, so that was also a big accomplishment for the fiscal year. And then we also supported the Mission Samoa Work Program, which was a transitional housing program. I gave you this all in one page. I'm sorry, when it got printed, it ended up being a very small print, but it is, all that information is on the slides as well, large, and it is on the website. So I'm not going to go through every line, but just to kind of highlight some of the key things that we look at. So last fiscal year, the city of Fairfield residents, between the shelters that we supported, 311 folks were sheltered through that fiscal year. Of those, we have an average, you see the average now, average overall combined is 66 individuals on any, or 88, sorry, individuals on any given night from the city of Fairfield across, so that's that next red highlighted line. Occupancy rates, so that's the rate of overall capacity to vacancies. And just to do as a reminder, Beck Avenue is not fully funded for capacity. So for overall, they were funded for about 84 beds. And of those 84 beds, they report 90% occupancy throughout the year. Canby, Missions, Pallets, and their work program were fully funded through the city of Fairfield. So that's based off of full occupancy. So overall, 95% occupancy, so utilization of beds. And, that's to be, taken into consideration. Sometimes it takes a minute to turn over and clean up, repairs. There's a lot that can go in. People they're scheduled, they don't show up. So being in that mid to high 90s is a good place to be. Percentage of those who increase income between entry and exit. This is, a standard that we look at a lot, and overall 32% across all programs. And then those that increased their income who were from the city of Fairfield were about 33%. And then housing, right? That's what we really want to look at. So overall positive housing outcomes, and that's going to be our permanent housing and our temporary housing. So transitional housing, temporarily with friends and family. 66% reported across all the programs. Bank has the lower percent, but they still are hitting over the benchmark. So the national benchmark that HUD sits is 30%, and they do take higher acuity participants. They have a lot of mental health beds and respite beds, so those are folks that are going to have higher acuity there at site. And then this is just that same sort of breakdown, but City of Fairfield specifically. So the only change you're really going to see here is for Bank, because they're our regional shelter. So they are assisting more than just City of Fairfield versus the other three programs exclusively being funded from the City of Fairfield. Okay, and then costs. So on average, across all four programs, a little bit over $56 per night per bed. For successful outcomes, about $7,500, $7,600 cost for that length of stay. So again, that's somebody that for their whole tenure into a positive housing outcome, permanent housing, transitional housing, and then for overall stays, a little bit over $5,700 costs per night on average between all four programs together. And that varies. Sometimes people are one night, sometimes people are there several months. So that's a varying difference there. This slide just really highlights, three of the key factors: individuals sheltered, like I mentioned, 311, 67% positive housing outcomes from the shelter placements, and 33% increased their income. So those are benchmarks that the federal government looks at regularly in looking at success. Then for hits, and again, we're looking at fiscal year. There were 18 homeward bound assistance happened. HIT placed 135 individuals into shelter. There were 365 encampments posted, over 5,300 calls for services, so those are people calling the emergency or non-emergency line. Almost 2,800 officer-initiated incidents, so that's our officers out there coming across somebody and interacting with them. 74 felony arrests, 181 misdemeanor arrests, and 166 citations were issued. And then fire stats, there were 823 calls during the fiscal year. Vast majority, so 60% of those were EMS, so emergency medical assistance. A lot of them are going to be very minor, but when you're out there and you don't have medical insurance or easy access to a regular primary doctor, you're going to call 911.
So Samantha, that's 206 fires that started in homeless encampments?
That are tied to homeless individuals one way or another. So 151 of those were rubbish fires, so garbage cans, things like that around the city. 38 were brush grass fires, and 4 were like cooking sort of fires. So, or like smoke from cooking, and maybe it didn't create a huge fire, but there was a call that was initiated. And then there were other calls for assistance. So a lot of that was helping out other agencies that maybe just needed some extra support. And then, of course, a lot of times, they show up, couldn't find something, that was the call, or it got canceled. But because the call was initiated, that's what it was. So that was reported from fire. Again, this to stay the same timeline. And then our public works, we had 1,160 camps and sites cleaned up. We had over 1,800 cubic yards of camp debris removed. So that is the whole of our Allen Witt Park pool. That'd be 1.5 times we would be filling that pool up with debris. 1,200, almost 1,300 shopping carts retrieved. Cubic yards of roadside, so over 2,600. Adopt a Street bags removed, 362. Square feet of graffiti removed, over 30,000 square feet. That would fill our entire exterior wall of one of those 200,000 square feet industrial buildings, just to kind of give you a visual. And then, as Mayor asked for a few weeks ago, so in the first 6 weeks since the Supreme Court ruling on grants passed, so that was back in June, so June 28th to like August 19th, this data is, we had 168 camps and sites that were cleaned up, and 414 cubic yards of debris that was removed during those first 7 weeks.
Cooking with gas.
Okay. Before I go in point in time, any questions? Because I know it's kind of broken up, any of that. Make it easier until I get, because then point in time, I'm sure there'll be questions.
Councilman Tonneson?
So you're going to point into, just back to page, we don't have numbers on these pages. So it looks like page 2. Yes, 3. So occupancy rate, is that the amount of beds that we have? And help me with this.
That's overall.
That's overall.
Yes, so that's all of them.
Overall.
So for Canby Mission and both of the Mission, those were our beds completely because we were sole funded. For Bank, that is for their occupancy for their entire site, so not just those that we were funded.
So we need more room. I mean, we're going to start cleaning up camps. There's going to be a lot more homeless individuals on the street. Do we have enough room?
No.
Kind of
Really, honestly.
Kind of
No,
rhetorical.
there's not enough emergency shelter beds for everybody that wants shelter at any
Understood.
given time.
I just wanted to get that on.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, so I just did some quick math there. So we were doing 22 camp cleanups a week over that year, and then now we're up to 24 a week, just in the last 7 weeks. So it's picked up a little bit. So it's good to have those numbers. I appreciate it. And there should be, I think there will be a time when these guys get the message that it ain't happening here in Fairfield. So but you never know. We bring more in, or
Well, I
other
will say
people
that
dump
we
them
are
off.
having folks that have come up to meet with my team to, that are saying, okay, I'll take shelter now. We don't always have an open bed, just to be
That's
real.
good to hear.
But that is happening.
That's the aim, right?
Yes, that is happening.
That's the aim.
We
So
are
I
definitely
really-
busy.
Yeah, everybody is. Everybody so appreciate everybody. This is, it's heavy duty work and it's been ongoing and appreciate everybody. Yeah, all right. Thank you. Yes, Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you. So, in looking at the pit numbers for Fairfield,
Oh, I haven't gotten to that
Oh.
part yet.
oh, you're, okay.
Yep, Pitt's next. I just wanted to break it up because I know we're switching topics, so.
Anybody else right now? No. Oh, yes, Madam Vice Mayor.
Just super quick to follow up on Councilmember Tonneson, approximately how many beds are we short, shelter beds are we short in order to accommodate the number of our homeless residents in Fairfield that need shelter? Because I think you're right with grants passed, that decision is not a decision to weaponize homelessness. It's an incentive for people to finally say, okay, I'll take shelter, because they now have no other choice. So how many beds approximately do you think we're short?
I would say over 400, as
Oh, my
you'll see when we get to our pit
Okay,
count numbers. Yeah, I think that'll answer that question for you more so. Okay, so pit count. So just as a reminder, the point in time count represents those that are observed on the street on the day that we do it. So we physically see somebody, or they're residing in an emergency shelter bed. So that could be an emergency homeless shelter, navigation center, a safe house, or transitional housing. So that is who we count with the point in time count. It does not capture if someone is in a motel. It does not capture if somebody is doubled up. It does not capture if someone is in an institutional setting, right? So I do have some jail numbers for you as we go, but just so you know, if someone that night was in the emergency room, we're not capturing them, right? Because we didn't physically see them unless they were at an emergency shelter and they had a bed there. It is mandated to be conducted every other year. It did get bumped from 2021 because of COVID, so the numbers kind of changed, so now that we're on even years. So this is a requirement from HUD to have a tool to standardize it across the board. Solano County counted Wednesday, January 31st. And we had a couple council members out there that helped us, so we really much appreciate that. So how did we do it? So those that were unsheltered, we physically went out and canvassed the city, right? We had a bunch of volunteers in our cars, walking the streets. Anybody we can see, anyone willing to do an interview, we would interview them. If we saw cars that we could tell that someone was sleeping in there, we had a way to count that. Sheltered, it's reported and pulled out of HMIS, and then those shelters that are not, which homeless service management systems or our database, or if they're not reporting in there, our team, our pit lead, worked with them to try to get those numbers. So making sure we got the numbers from City Church, we did get those numbers.
Just, Sam, the amount of people that showed up, I know me and Doris were there, but the amount of people that showed up, and I'm sure you're going to get to that, but that was an amazing number. And we were all there at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, so a lot of people showed up, and it was a huge team effort, but I'm sure you'll get there. Thank you.
Yep, it's on the next slide. Okay, so our pit numbers. Solano County, we counted 1,725 people. This is a 46% increase from 2022. There were 1,436 unsheltered, so that was our largest population. That was 83% of those counted. That is an increase of 56%. 289 were sheltered, which was 16%, almost 17% of the count, and that did increase by 11.6%. So why? I don't have a magical answer. Just to be really clear, there could be a lot of factors going here. one thing, we did have an increase of 66% of registered volunteers across the county. We had an increase of 89% in the city of Fairfield. So having more physical bodies out there to canvass and, have do interviews, put their eyes on folks, definitely is a factor. How much of a factor? I can't quantify that for you, but we do think that was part of the factor. Other things is we know nationally, HUD released their annual homeless assessment report in December, and they were reporting a 12% increase across the nation. So we know this is the trend that we're seeing. There is an increase. One of my theories is we are now seeing the effects of COVID. Right? There were a lot of protections keeping people housed during COVID. A lot of the ordinances and protections and assistance monies, a lot of it ended last year. And so it takes a minute for that to catch up. Landlords couldn't evict somebody for things that happened during that period. So then if those behaviors continued when they weren't paying rent, or other things happen, then they're building a new case, right? And then if somebody goes to court, all of that, it could take a minute to pass through. Also, a lot of times when folks get to this place, sometimes they can bounce around, staying with friends or family for a while until they exhaust that. So one of my working theories is that that's part of it. Also, just inflation. Just to be honest, there was a report that came out that the National Low Income Housing Coalition, it's their Out of Reach report, they do this annually, and in California, you need to earn $47.38 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom market rate apartment in the state of California. The average renter earns $31 an hour, okay? A minimum wage worker, so someone making $16 an hour, would need to work 96 hours a week to afford a modest 1-bedroom apartment. So that's if they can find something that's under $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom apartment, which isn't, in a lot of communities, you can't find it. So just to kind of give you an assessment of that. The other thing I did want to kind of point out, there's always questions about other ways to count. I did connect with our coordinated entry provider, Resource Connect Solano, Kaminar. He let me know that they had 1,022 assessments done last year. So even they aren't capturing everybody that's out there, right? So it kind of gives you kind of a big picture there. This next slide kind of shows you the trends since 2009. There is a slight peak in sheltered, of course, in 2021. That's what those were those COVID dollars, right? So that's when we were able to motel folks. So that's where we're seeing that little bit of peak. And yeah, then we're seeing the jump up. Okay, capturing other counties. So comparing. So some of this is preliminary data. So this is information they released before HUD certified the data. So some of these numbers may have changed a little bit, but it was the best that I could find. So as you can see, a lot of our surrounding communities went up as well, right? And of course, one that stands out to me is Sacramento. So I looked and I dug, and Sacramento did drop. But in looking at that, they increased permanent supportive housing in 2023 by 39%, and they increased their rapid rehousing money and assistance by 25%. So that's why we're seeing a decrease. A lot of folks were housed.
But our numbers are staggering. It's just staggering.
But Samuel King definitely has the higher numbers.
Sure, but we're way above the mean there, the average. Any of it, it's just sickening.
But just kind of give an idea. Okay, and then this slide, we are looking at it's a lot of data, I know, but I was trying to put it all in one for you. Our 2024 sheltered and unsheltered versus our 2022 unsheltered and sheltered numbers. So our blue and gold is 2024, And then the purple and darker blue is 2022. So you can see how it kind of breaks down. City of Fairfield had 590 folks that were counted, which is a 38% increase from 2022. Of that, we have 176 people that were sheltered. That's actually a decrease by 10% from 2022. And then unsheltered, 419. So that's the number of folks that were visibly seen that were in a shelter bed that day. That is a 79% increase from 2022. One thing that I do note, looking at it, thankfully, at least 30% of our folks are sheltered. I mean, it'd be better, of course, yes, if it was more. But in comparison to other Solano County cities, we're doing better with our sheltered, right? The next high, Dixon shows 52%. That's a transitional housing program for veterans that's being run in that program. So that's what you're seeing there. Vacaville is about 17% sheltered, and Vallejo was about 9% sheltered. And I will say, if you read in depth of the report, I did give everybody a copy of the report. Our beds were pretty filled. We had 169 of the 187 emergency shelter beds were filled that night, so that's over 90%. And transitional housing beds, all but one bed was filled that night. So 120 of 121 beds were filled. So that's a 99% occupancy that night. Okay, then just looking at some demographics. So things that kind of stood out. Vast majority identify as male or present as male over female. Our 35 to 44 age range is our highest, followed by our 45 to 44%. Chronic homelessness increased 12.7%, to taking us up to 29.2%. And chronic homelessness is defined as having one or more disability, or a family with a head of household that has a disabling condition who has either been continuously unhoused for a year, so 12 months or more, or has experienced 4 incidents of houselessness in 3 years. Not on here, but just to let you guys know, family homelessness did decrease by 10%, but again, we're less likely to see our families sleeping on the street. They might have been in hotels, staying with friends or family, doubled up. And then for this count, about 96 were individuals versus 4% being families. Then just to kind of look at disabling conditions, it did increase, and this is self-reported, right? This is self-reported disabling conditions. So it did increase by 9%. It was 37% in 2022 and 46% in 2024. And then the other thing that I did calculate, which I thought was really interesting, is those sleeping in vehicles increased by 33% from the last pit count. And then again, not on this slide, but to let you guys know, Cap Solano JPA board did ask to look at those that are incarcerated that would be otherwise considered unhoused. It's not part of the pit count that we submit to HUD, but we did find that 22% of those that were incarcerated at the time of the pit count would be identified as unhoused. So that's 122 people. So if they were not in jail that night, they would be unhoused.
So 22% of the people inside Solano County Jail on that one night would be classified as unhoused?
Correct.
So 1 out of 5 people in there, okay.
Yeah. That's it. And then, of course, you can find the full and executive summaries on our Cap Solano JPA, and all previous through 2015 are found on there, so you can always go and look at old ones if you want to look at old ones, but we did provide printed copies for you as well. Any questions?
All right, team. Oh, Councilwoman Williams. First, I just want to tell you, fantastic, thick with stuff for us to read for the next year. Thank you.
No problem.
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. And thank you, Sam. This is a lot of information, and that is good. I think having data is the first place to start in getting our arms around this. But I don't feel like we have our arms around this. And I'm coming from the standpoint of someone that runs a transitional home in Vallejo, not in Fairfield, but Vallejo, but part of the ecosystem. I thought it was interesting that there was, in one of the numbers, that all the beds were filled in transitional homes except for one. I call bull.
I believe you.
I don't remember getting a call to ask me how many people did I have. I don't get calls now asking me how many beds I have open. The system feels broken. And I say that with a heavy and broken heart. I still don't know what happens if I, right now, thought that I was in danger of being homeless. I'm not quite sure who to call. Who do people call? Are these numbers right? The reason why these numbers are so different than they were 2 years ago, I say because the PIT count wasn't done well 2 years ago. The people in the industry, we were talking in resource committees, and we were like, these numbers are crap. These are not correct numbers. These are the people that were servicing the homeless community. The numbers aren't right. So we can't say, oh, this has been a big change. No, the numbers were crap 2 years ago. And I'm not going to say they're bad now. I say they're better now, but do we really still have a true sense of how many people are homeless? And we have, I think we can really fact check ourselves, because you, ma'am, run this amazing homelessness roundtable with all of these different communities that are there to serve the community. And in even that group, along with HEART, along with HIT, along with our police department, along with all these people that touch homeless, can we all be in one place and really identify how many homeless people do we have? I want to see those numbers, because those numbers give us a true sense of where the gap is. Where are the beds, the transitional beds? How many do we have? How many are really broke? How many are really filled? And these numbers, when we're talking about shelters, how many are unfilled beds? So, so I don't want to be not grateful for what you've provided, because I am, because it gives us a clearer sense, a clearer snapshot. But I feel terribly frustrated. I'm ready to get our arms around this in a real way, Like how much? How much is leakage? How many organizations are we giving money to and they're not doing anything? So anyway, sorry. Thank
That's
you.
totally fine. And that, definitely contributes to one of the biggest things that, I've been helping work on since I started, which is getting staffing, right, for Capilano JPA. All the cities except for Dixon did vote to support that and financially, so we are moving forward. The county is now working on getting everything approved, going through their HR processes, going before the Board of Supervisors, and getting them to approve it. And then hopefully we will be able to start getting some staff in there to really help provide the oversight across the entire county. Right, so it's not just, it's Fairfield. I'm working really closely with a lot of the providers, especially the ones that we fund. Our shelter providers are providing me a monthly report now. Every single month, they're providing me a report. So I'm getting data every month. I just sent them a reminder, hey, I need your August data. So there is a level of accountability in having that staffing. I believe, and I don't want to misquote, but I think the transitional housing might be the numbers that were in the HMIS system. So I don't know if your transitional housing is in HMIS or not. Yeah, so it may, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what they said. I think that the housing inventory count has to do with what they have inside HMIS.
Councilman Doug?
Yes, I got a two-parter. One, of course, we are the county seat, and we have the county jail, and we have the main shelter. But on the, I wasn't able to participate in the pit count, but is the interviews accounted, do they ask any questions on where the person's from, their city? Where were they residing 2 years ago, or are they Fairfield citizens? Do you know if that question was asked?
Trying to remember, I don't think so with the, I can't remember with the survey, honestly. I know there was a lot of questions about veteran status, age, gender identifying, but it really gets captured about where that person, so it's geotagged where that person is when we're entering it, because so it's an app. And so when we're in the app, so it doesn't 100, I don't think that question was in there, honestly. It is something that gets asked, you know, like when we're interacting with folks, when HIT's interacting, when they're doing their coordinated entry assessments, they are asking about where people have previously lived. So I think that data will get a little bit better, but again, those will be people that are actually accessing services within the community.
And you kind of answered my second one. I was going to let Kate Patrice know that HMIS beds, that might be accurate, but it isn't all the housing beds in Fairfield, I can guarantee you that. Also, the Fairfield, about to get a whole bunch of more homeless due to our situation that we have with the BODE. They are, as far as it goes, is, for those of you that don't know, I'm a case manager and I put people in houses, and I'm having a real hard time finding houses for our court-appointed people with problems right now. There's people on the street, I can't get them housing. They have to call and they have to get, they have to fit certain criteria, and they have to have severe or moderate mental health or to even get housing now. So I'm just letting the community know right now what we're going through as case managers trying to house people. Unfortunately, all the other beds that you're discussing are full, but there are a whole bunch of SLEs, and SLE stands for Sober Living Environment. That's people that are transitioning from jail that have been in there for substance use issues, DUIs, these kind of things. And they are going to be homeless because we can't get them housing anymore. I believe that the cutbacks from Proposition 1, they come through the counties, they kind of panicked, they farmed it out, and they pretty much cut those fundings off. I'm getting calls from all kinds of people that have these transitional housing that they're getting ready to sell their house. So it's going to get a little bit worse, and I think that we can do something about it. I'll keep the public informed what I find out, but I'd like everybody to understand that this is something that we can do. We just need to put some pressure on certain people. Thank you.
Anybody else? Comments? Madam Vice Mayor?
Thank you, great report. Do you have any idea of the general fund expenditures that we invested in fiscal year 23-24 for all of the services that we've provided? As reported in your report?
I didn't put it in this. Sorry, I didn't put it in this slide. I did report out what we had allocated when we had the retreat, so I know it is in there. So we can get that back to you as well. I don't want to misquote the exact number off the top of my head,
Yeah.
but it was over $1 million. But not all of that was general fund. Some of it was CDBG funds. Some of
Okay.
it, yeah.
So
But I do have it broken down.
It's way more than that.
In your follow-up, I would appreciate having that information. The total amount of expenditures that the city of Fairfield has invested in these activities for serving the homeless population. And then I'd like to have a breakdown from that number on a entity by entity basis. How much have we invested in bank? How much have we invested in Can Be? How much have we invested in Mission Samoa? Because one of the things that we need to do to get our arms around what we're doing is to make sure that, you know, where we're investing, they're producing at maximum capacity. And I'll just share this. I question sometimes whether all of the organizations that we are investing in, and that by way of our residents, you know, tax dollars, that I question whether they're performing at a maximum capacity functioning level, because, you know, now more than ever, as everybody knows with grants passed, we are going to have more homeless people that are going to not be living on the streets, and that are going to need some kind of shelter. So we need to understand how much we're investing, who's performing, who's underperforming, and do something about the underperformance of organizations that we're investing in. Yeah. So just, you know, I'm saying let's follow the money.
One quick, just clarifying question
Yes,
for you,
sir.
Madam Vice Mayor. Are you looking for every dollar invested? So if we brought grant funds in for capital improvements to expand capacity for a facility, you want to know that in addition to what is programmatically being funded, because those are very different things. So
Yeah, and so I would like to know the money that this city has invested.
got it.
And that includes the grant funding that we have invested, because we use our resources to procure those grants. We use our resources to find that extra funding. And so as complete, you know, as possible, I'd like to know the amounts that we've invested, where we've invested it, and to match with this fiscal year 23-24 report, because you've already shown us some performance metrics for the organizations that we're working with. So we already have that. Now I'd like to see how much money they received and compare that to not only their performance metrics, but their outcomes as well.
Yeah, I can definitely incorporate the capital. I mean, that one slide that showed like the costs, that was definitely broke down the by person amounts that we put in, whatever
By
funding.
person, but not by organization.
It was by person per organization on, but it does not have capital dollars. So I did not include the slide that was like the overall amounts per agency that they
Right.
got, but this is like the breakdown per person each by, you know, the cost that it went in. But we can definitely pull that, and we can pull the capital money, because that would be very different. I mean, some of the capital money honestly was in a different fiscal year. So, you know, some like the renovations that were done for Ohio Street, that wouldn't fall in this fiscal year. But, you know,
Okay.
a lot of money was put in to actually all of the sites. You know, if we go back and look at, you know, each site has had a lot of money put into it to rehab and, you know, or build just in general.
Okay. So yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Councilman Doug, Councilman Bandura first, please.
I just got a real quick question. When Abode did come to give a presentation and they backed out, did we ever find out why they decided not to come? And
What was communicated to me was they decided to focus on the contracts that they already had within Solano County, and not, and just work on just doing that well and building their presence in the community before they expanded out.
Thank you.
Councilman Bandura.
Thank you, Mayor. Sam, thank you for the presentation and the data. I know that's been a big change in the last, well, since you got here, with including data. It's so important, as we've all asked for, and especially thank you for looking at the data every month with those reports. I think that's super helpful to have oversight at what they're doing, because I know that I trust you to tell us, like, hey, someone's not meeting the standards that we have asked of them to do this. And then Councilmember Williams, I wanted to thank you for expressing your sentiment. I think that your sentiment is felt by so many of us at the regional level, and I think that's what we're doing with Cap Solano. I think that sentiment lays with all of those representatives, and I've been there since the beginning, along with Councilmember Vaccaro and now with Councilmember Doug. But it's a lot of work, and I think that we all feel that way, and it's frustrating that we know there's a lot of work to do, and it's just all this bureaucracy that kind of gets in the way in terms of we're waiting for the HR process, and which is fine, but like it all takes so much time. And I think we're finally at a point, we're finally turning the corner where we're able to get staff in so that we can get more funding in so that we can, do these projects and get more beds and help each other out. And, it's a big challenge that we all face. And so I just want to thank you, because I know that that sentiment is felt, I think, by so many people, and we're working hard. I know that, and the staff is as well, that's behind us, to try to get to a better place. But yeah, thank you.
Yes, we have improved in our report since you came on. You're actually doing the work, and it's good work. And everybody here is doing great work. And given all that, we can't keep doing what we've been doing. And I know that things are going to change at the county level. Policy has to change, and I know this sounds like an old drum, but housing first does not work for everybody. And a bill in the legislature failed that would have amended that so we could pay for sober living for people. Because housing first, of course, allows people to continue their drug use and live in free housing that taxpayers pay. And they are not obligated at all to do anything about whatever is haunting them. And if you talk to folks who have become sober and had a difficult life, and I talked to some of them that are big advocates down in San Francisco. I regularly speak with them. And they say it's very difficult when you decide to be sober, to be sharing a bedroom or something with somebody who comes in loaded. And so that's why we need both. Housing first, since it's been around, our numbers have just gone up. And it works for some people. They don't get sober. They don't live, I don't think, healthy lives. And I think that's ultimately what we want for everybody. You can't make people do that, what they don't want to do. We need to push really hard to use some of the millions of dollars, billions actually in this state, billions, so people can be sober. Taxpayers don't even know that's what we do. We fund this. And this is so heartbreaking. I just want to sit here and cry knowing how hard every single one of us has worked. It makes you want to cry. It takes me to my knees. I'm like, what? Oh my God. And the one thing that I see all the time is the policy hasn't changed. You can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result. You can't. So I think we need to push and try to get this, law changed at the state level. And there are folks there on both sides who want to do that. So that's one thing that I think that we can do that would be positive. Now, I'm wondering if you know if the 22% of the folks on one night at the jail who would be classified as unhoused, don't laugh out loud. Does the sheriff's department do anything to help these folks get into a place? Do they have any kind of case management, sir?
I would definitely
Yes.
defer to Councilman Carr on that, since that's his
Yes,
expertise.
they do have a few programs, one for women and one for men, and then they also have a program out there at the Work Center. Health Right 360 is one of the largest substance use disorder treatment programs in the state, and they are out there at the jail.
Okay.
And they do programs and assessments. Renee, she's the lady that pretty much runs all the programs out there, and they do see, I would say, maybe 25 to 30 people a week with substance use disorders and mental health issues, and homelessness too. They do have programs for that.
Yeah, we're letting those folks down if we don't get to them. And it's good to hear that. I just don't, it's tragic that they get into a situation, they've gone through the courts and then end up on the street where you're gonna be out there with people using drugs and stealing and stuff again. That's the way it works out there. And you all know that. I'm just preaching to the choir, but it just, I'm sick to my stomach right now. And then the last thing is, want to make sure when we're looking at our ROI or return on investment for our taxpayers, and we're looking at what we've invested, we also look at the costs. Like I think, if I recall, that the fire department, their calls, there's a huge percentage that are about and related to homelessness. Not just the fires, but what you were talking about earlier. That cost has to be included, and so does police. And I know that they track this stuff because I've asked for it before and we've seen it. Because we're talking about millions of dollars that it costs us, not just 1 million. We need to know the total amount that we're spending on anything related to homelessness. And that helps us, and it's real, and our citizens deserve to see it. Sam, you've been fantastic. This is a really, really good thing, and really good information. And I know that we're going to get somewhere. We just got to stay with it. And I especially appreciate Councilwoman Panduro and Councilman Vaccaro and now Councilman Doug for doing that at another level, which is very frustrating because Fairfield's the best, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a cheerleader for here, but we're way ahead of everybody else. And the county, which has had all this money from health and social services, right? That's how it works. They're asleep at the damn wheel. And so, it's something. And I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all of you. So that's all I have. Thank you, Samantha.
No problem. And yeah, I can work with the other departments to get an idea of the costs. So next time we present out, we can be able to do that. I did get, from fire, just so that you know, but it wasn't in the same range of what I was reporting, but they did let me know so far for this calendar year, so for 2024, they're 37% of the calls
That's
for
what I thought.
fire
It's pretty high.
has been for
37%. Now look at your fire budget, and then we're talking millions of dollars. So,
yeah, it
thank
just was
you.
out of the range, so I didn't want to mess and
Yeah,
confuse you
don't
guys
mess with the
numbers.
range. Thank you
Confused with the numbers.
Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Thanks so much. And all of the employees that are out there, all of you, every day. Wow, incredible. Okay, so now that we're done with that fun presentation, we'll go to public comments.
Persons wishing to address the city council on subjects not on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the council may do so at this time. The council cannot discuss or take action on matters not on the agenda for this meeting. The council members may briefly respond to statements made or questions raised by the public, ask for clarification from staff, refer the matter to staff, request staff to report back to the council at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. To speak on an agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature or press *9 on your phone. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item. I don't have any hands raised online, and I don't have any general public comments.
All right, we just have one person online, but they're not raising their hand, huh?
I know that we have a public comment, Amanda. I may have forgotten to remind you to fill out the speaker card. So why don't you have what?
Come on up.
Yeah, and just and mom or dad can fill out the speaker card.
Amanda, is it, huh?
She's Mandy to me.
Mandy.
She's Mandy to me.
Okay. Beautiful name. I named my daughter that after you. Actually, she's older than you, so anyway.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be quick. Steph Curry once said, "Success is not an accident. It is actually a choice." Athletes like Steph Curry and Simone Biles work hard to be successful. Special Olympics athletes are no different. It is important for our voices to be heard. Every day, Special Olympics athletes break barriers by excelling in excellence. My name is Amanda. I'm a national ambassador for the Special Olympics. The Special Olympics is not only a sports organization. We have a multitude of opportunities. We believe in early education, health and wellness, and my personal favorite, athlete leadership. Tonight, I encourage you to consider supporting the Special Olympics. We believe in teamwork. Clay Aiken, co-founder of the National Inclusion Project, believes that no one succeeds alone. Please help my fellow teammates and I go for the gold in Solano County. To pledge your support, please visit sonc.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
you, Amanda. Very nice job.
Thank you, Amanda.
Very
Well
nice.
done. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
And would you mind filling out a card? The clerk will help you out there. Thank you so much. All right. All right. And then when she's finished there, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
All matters listed on the consent calendar are to be approved with one motion unless a member of the city council or the public requests that separate action be taken on a specific item. I do not have any hands raised online, and I don't have any public comment cards specific to the consent calendar.
All right, so is there anybody here who would like to speak on the consent calendar? All righty, then I'm going to go ahead and entertain a motion to approve. So
Second.
moved in a second. All in favor? Aye. That was unanimous. All right, and now we're going to turn to new business and item 12.
Item 12, Resolution 2024-222 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield, considering the proposed amendment and restatement of the rate and method of apportionment of special tax for improvement area number 1 of the City of Fairfield Community Facilities District, number 2023-1, One Lake Planning Area 5, and an increase in the amount of bonded indebtedness, approving an amended and restated deposit agreement, and approving other matters thereto. And our presenter is our Finance Director, John Furtado.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. I do not have a presentation today since it's not budget season, right? So today, earlier on the consent calendar, the City Council adopted an ordinance approving the Fifth Amendment to the developer agreement. The Fifth Amendment increased the potential total rate from 1.65% to 1.75% on the developer agreement. Back in February of 2023, we formed a new CFD, CFD 2023 for the One Lake Planning Area 5. What we are doing today is initiating the process of the change proceedings to incorporate the developer agreement into that. So we will be coming back to you if you approve today's proceedings. We will then have that resolution increasing the special tax rates and the authorized bond indebtedness that we can take on this CFD. After tonight's meeting, the city clerk will publish a public hearing for October 15th. At that meeting, you will consider a resolution to go out for the debt, and the developers and the property owners will vote for or against that process. Subsequent to that, we will have in November we would have raised the debt and come back to council for the final authorization. That's all I have with regards to the subject. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Our bond counsel is also online.
Okay. Any public speakers on this, Madam Clerk, first?
I don't have any hands raised online, and I did not receive any cards to speak.
Anybody here like to speak on this item? All right. Questions from the council? Nope. Okay. Then I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-222. We got a motion, Tonneson, a second by Doug. All in favor? Aye. All right, that was unanimous. So now we're going to move to public hearings. Item 13, please.
Item 13, public hearing and resolution 2024-223 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield approving submission of the fiscal year 2023-2024 Community Development Block Grant Program Consolidated Annual Performance Evaluation Report to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and authorizing the city manager to execute any agreements or documents requested by HUD. And our presenter is Senior Management Analyst LaTanya Turones.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. I come before you today to bring forward the CAPER, which is our annual report that we do to HUD, letting them know what the outcomes of our last fiscal year annual action plan was, how we performed, how we spent the dollars for that particular year for the CDBG program. And so just as a reminder, so the goal of the CDBG program is to provide decent housing, suitable living environment, and expand economic opportunities. The CAPER, it's a summary of the goals and outcomes from the last fiscal year, so 23-24. So we submit the annual action plan, and then we do the CAPER to report on our annual action plan. So the action plan is due 90 days after the end of the program year, and will be due to HUD on September the 28th. Just a recap from earlier in the year. So we get an annual allocation from HUD each year for the CDBG program. 15% of those dollars can be allocated to public services, 20% can be allocated to program administration, and all remaining funding can go to public facilities, infrastructure projects, or things that are not related to public services. And so here we have a list of how the project performance. So during the annual action plan time, which would have been May of 2023, we brought forward the annual action plan, and you all approved the projects that we would support with that funding. And so here's just a list of all the projects and how they performed, the funding that was expended, and the accomplishments of each one of those particular projects. So with that particular, during the action plan year, we allocated $1.6 million. 1.5 of those dollars, 1.5 million were spent, and that served 1,949 low-income Fairfield residents. And so with that, we're asking for you to approve a resolution for us to submit the CAPER, or to hold a public hearing, and approve the resolution to submit the CAPER to HUD before September 28th. Thank you.
All righty.
Any questions?
I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing first. And do we have anybody online or any cards, Madam Clerk?
No hands raised online, and also I did not receive any speaker cards.
Anybody here tonight like to speak on this item? All right. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing then. And any questions here, council?
Just a memory refresher, where do the unused funds go?
They stay, so the unused funds, we continue to maintain them. We get to reallocate them to other projects.
Right, okay.
That were like non-public service.
I sat on CDBG, but I forgot, so thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Panduro.
So just following off that, so with regards to like the HER, the Housing and Economic Rights, where the program was canceled, that's what happens, the funds just kind of get put.
They go back into the CDBG pot, yeah.
Okay, Thank you.
Yeah, and so we do have an opportunity to reallocate those funds for other projects.
That-
And Councilwoman Williams.
Thank you. Maybe this was just asked. There were two things that caught my eye. One was empowered aging, where the goal was 1,700 served, but only 222 was served.
Yeah.
But the same money was allocated.
So they have a very, their program, the 1,700 is still served. So essentially their particular program, they oversee, they're ombudsmen, so they oversee the living facilities. So they have a total case management of 1,700. And so they will deal with the complaints that they receive. Although all 1,700 are on their caseload, they won't know which ones they get cases for or complaints for, but they still check in. They do check-ins with all 1,700, but the 222 would be related to the number that they actually receive complaints for. And so they have about 4 goals total of different things for their particular program that they're overseeing. But their total, like I said, total caseload is 17.
No, thank you. You explained that well, because I am familiar with them. Maybe this was the question that was just asked by Councilwoman Panduro. The revolving loan, is that what was canceled?
No. So the revolving loan fund is money that was set aside a long time ago for housing, low-income housing rehabilitation for individual homeowners. And so we would, and we still have that program, so we give home loans to homeowners who are looking to rehab their homes. And then as they pay that money back, it just keeps, it just keeps revolving back into the system. So that's a little bit different than the funds that are returned for unspent. Those are two separate, it's still CDBG funds, but they're separate funds.
Got it. And then my final question is on the packet, page 159, and it's surrounding the racial and ethnic composition of families assisted. And so looking at that grid, my first thought was, I'm wondering if it matches the ethnic and racial breakdown of Fairfield itself. If there is work that is there equity work, is there an equity lens that we need to put on these dollars to make sure that we're not missing groups?
So that particular grid, it can be a little confusing. So for HUD requires that we report every individual that receives service, they have to report race and ethnicity. And so every person will have both coupled in their application. And so while one race may seem like, oh, we helped a lot in this race, well, in fact, they could be, as an example, they could be white Hispanic or white non-Hispanic. And so that may show that it isn't completely shown in that particular grid, but it's just the way that HUD requires that we report that information to them. Nonetheless, all of our subrecipients have an equal opportunity requirement as part of their application and as part of their contract. So we do make sure that as we monitor them and we monitor their activities throughout the year, that they have in place opportunities to serve the entire demographic, and they have to have brochures and certain information in place in order for them to continue to be compliant for the program.
No, thank you. So, because, as we know that we can look surface like we are, tapping into all communities. But we can have a stack of flyers in 3 different languages. That doesn't mean we're getting those flyers out to those groups. So do we, and I get it. I get how HUD has a very stringent requirement and we are meeting it. I'm not disputing all that. What I'm saying is, are these numbers, are you looking at these numbers with your experience and saying, we're missing. We're missing. On paper, it looks right, but really we're we're missing some demographics here.
What I would say is that we can continue to do education with our subrecipients to ensure that it's an all-inclusive, that they're getting all the information out and that they're including all demographic, everyone from all demographical backgrounds. And so I think it's just we continue to work with our subrecipients on a regular basis. And so we'll just continue to do that just to make sure that that spread is a little bit more even and in line with the city's demographic data.
Is that it? Okay, any other questions? All right, then I'm going to go ahead and entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-223.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye, and that is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're going to move on to item 14, please.
Item 14, public hearing and first reading and introduction of ordinance 2024-07 of the City Council of the City of Fairfield, amending various sections of Chapter 25, Article 1 of the Municipal Code, also known as zoning ordinance, to create a land use definition for mini storage interior and conditionally permit the use in the Industrial Business Park District, create a land use for definition for mini storage exterior, and adjust various land use regulations pertaining to mini storage interior and mini storage exterior uses. And our presenter is Senior Planner Jonathan Atkinson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. Tonight I will ask you to consider a zoning ordinance amendment that does the following. One, creates two land use definitions for mini storage to differentiate between interior and exterior facilities. Number two, permits interior mini storage facilities in the Industrial Business Park District with a use permit. And lastly, modifies the multiple zoning ordinance land use tables to identify where interior mini storage facilities can be established. In January of this year, Mick DuPont and Zachary Wright of 360 Campus Fairfield LLC filed a use permit to convert an existing 71,000 square foot office building into an interior mini storage facility. The subject property is zoned Industrial Business Park District and does not permit mini storage facilities currently. In April of this year, the applicants filed a zoning ordinance amendment application to create a land use definition for interior mini storage and to conditionally permit the use in the Industrial Business Park District. The use permit application for this conversion is subject to a separate zoning administrator decision at the Planning Division staff level. This use permit application would only move forward with City Council approval of the zoning ordinance amendment request before you tonight. The following is the existing land use definition for mini storage. The zoning ordinance currently does not differentiate between indoor or outdoor mini storage facilities. Mini storage uses can be low one-story facilities with exterior roll-up doors and drive-up access to the individual units. This use can also be a multi-story facility where individual storage units are climate controlled and only accessible from inside of the building. Mini storage uses are prohibited in all zoning districts except for the service commercial district where they are permitted by right and the limited industrial district where they are conditionally permitted or permitted with a use permit. Staff determined that an indoor facility is the only type of mini storage that can be considered appropriate for the Industrial Business Park District. Properties that are zoned with this designation are typically developed as master plan business and industrial parks in a campus-like setting. Staff supports the creation of a definition for interior mini storage. Interior mini storage facilities can be characterized as follows. These are individual storage spaces that are climate controlled and only accessible from inside of the building. There are a limited number of common loading doors to the outside, a caretaker's residential unit within the building, and retail sales of moving and storage equipment are accessory uses to the facility. And lastly, moving trucks and trailer rentals and the outdoor storage of moving equipment, vehicles, trucks, RVs, and boats are prohibited. The approved Storage 360 project on Horizon Drive largely embodies characteristics of an interior mini storage facility. This was a project that the Planning Commission approved back in February of 2020, and construction has not yet commenced. Staff supports the creation of a definition for exterior mini storage. These can be characterized as individual storage spaces with exterior or outdoor access, a caretaker's residential unit, moving trucks and trailer rentals, and retail sales of moving and storage supplies are accessory to this type of facility. And lastly, establishments where the primary use is outdoor vehicle storage is prohibited. The approved StoreQuest Express project at 1094 Horizon Drive is an example of an exterior mini storage facility. And to note, this project was approved by the Planning Commission in April 2022, and construction is nearly complete. The creation of both interior and exterior mini storage definitions would require various amendments to the land use tables in the zoning ordinance. The amendments would include amending Table 25-1 to prohibit both types of mini storage in all residential zoning districts. It would amend 25-9, which is the commercial zoning districts, to permit both types of mini storage in the service commercial zoning district by right. As far as the Heart of Fairfield zoning districts go, which are under Table 25-H1, mini storage facilities of both kinds, interior and exterior, would continue to be prohibited in the Heart of Fairfield zoning districts. And lastly, Table 25-11, which is the city's industrial land use table. The zoning ordinance would be amended to conditionally permit mini storage interior in our industrial business park district, as noted, and also establish a minimum separation requirement so we don't start to see like an over-concentration of this type of use. And that would be a half-mile radius between mini storage interior facilities within the industrial business park district. And lastly, we would conditionally permit mini storage exterior and interior in the IL district, where it's currently conditionally permitted. These zoning ordinance amendments are exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, under Section 15305, which involves minor alterations to land use regulations. It should be noted that any subsequent applications for mini storage in the industrial business park zone would be subject to its own environmental review. And just to note, on July 24th of this year, the Planning Commission did hold a public hearing and unanimously adopted Resolution PC 2024-05 to recommend City Council approval of these zoning ordinance amendments. Staff recommends that the Council conduct the first reading of Ordinance 2024-07. This would adopt the zoning ordinance amendments for various sections of the code related to interior and exterior mini storage. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also wanted to note that the applicant team is in attendance, and they're also available to answer questions as well.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open the public hearing first. Madam Clerk, anybody will?
Yes, I do have one speaker card, and our speaker is Mick DuPont.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mick DuPont, and I'm with 360 Campus Fairfield, LLC, the building you saw on the screen earlier. We're the owners of the roughly 70,000 square foot office building. It's just north of I-80 near Solano Community College near Green Valley. We purchased the building approximately 3 years ago with the intention of finding a office tenant. And we've been aggressively marketing the building for an office tenant since, and that's been unsuccessful. There simply isn't a need out there or a demand or a user for the type of building we have, or even portions of that building our phones haven't rang. We've been maintaining the building to keep it from becoming a nuisance property, and that simply isn't sustainable with an empty building. We've been maintaining the landscaping and keeping up the grounds, and we've done a lot of improvements to it, and I think the building, which is a beautiful building, looks great. We just unfortunately cannot continue to keep it as an empty building. We think the interior storage option is an elegant solution. The solution preserves the look and feel of the building and will bring some new life into it. As was presented, the indoor public storage option wouldn't have any big exterior walls, wouldn't have fencing, wouldn't have barbed wire or exterior doors, no RVs, no boats. The building would look more or less the way it looks now, except with people using it and possibly some signage. We do have some prospective operators that have shown real interest in bringing a storage facility to this building that would occupy the whole space. I want to thank you, Jonathan, for an excellent presentation, and I want to thank the planning team, Jonathan Atkinson and David Feinstein, for helping craft what I think is a very good solution to a vacant building problem. And I want to thank your planning commission for recommending approval of this amendment to the zoning ordinance, and I'm available to answer any questions that you guys may have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just 1 minute, sir. Councilman Williams.
Yeah, I just want to run it past you. We'll say that in reading the agenda, I wanted to disclose that I am on a board of Solano Affordable Housing Foundation, and so is one of the applicants, Zachary Wright. We serve together on a nonprofit board. I'm just disclosing it. I don't believe that there's any conflict of interest at all. It doesn't impact my ability to make a decision, but I wanted to bring it up. And is this the appropriate time to do so?
Yes, thank you. There's no legal conflict there.
Council Williams ran it by me earlier. There's no
Yeah.
conflict.
Very good. Thank you so much for bringing it up. There's no conflict. Thank you. Any other questions of the applicant?
Yeah, Jonathan, can you go back a few screens to the building? Or to the building that was going to be? That one.
That's actually a rendering of.
Okay,
the
that's what,
project
are you going to blow those doors out? I mean, those,
This is actually the building right
yeah,
here.
are you going to blow out the round glass? Are you guys going to?
No, sir. So the intention is to keep the look of the building as it is now. And where that glass rotunda is, which is the main lobby entrance, and there's another like it on the northeast corner, that's going to be where a potential operator would put their office. So guests would come in through those existing glass doors and greet the operator, which is where they would rent their storage space, conduct business, sign a lease. Access for storage would be pairs of doors, much like the doors you see there. We may need to add a few. If that's the case, it would be done in such a fashion that it would be consistent with the look of the building.
And there's a mirror of this on the other side of the building. You're keeping that too?
Yes, sir. We'd need entrances on both sides because it is a big building, so.
Elevator in there?
So we need to get an operator involved. And in order to firm up the plans for how the interior of the building is going to look, we need to, with the council's approval, proceed with our ability to find an operator. But our initial thought was we would have freight elevators at either end. And we would use.
Exterior?
No, interior.
Okay.
So that glass there, that's a 2-story lobby. It's a volume ceiling, which translates well to an ability to retrofit a freight elevator in the lobby. And we believe there should be one on both ends so people don't have to move their belongings all the way across the building, just as a matter of convenience and marketability.
And you said you have some clients lined up. What percentage will be climate control, or will it all be climate control?
The whole thing.
Okay. And then that's kind of a niche use, so you have some people lined up. I think I'd have rather seen Discovery's main office there, but that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? All right, thank you, sir. Do we have anybody else who'd like to speak, Madam Clerk?
I don't have any more cards and no hands are raised online.
Anybody here like to make a public comment on this? All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'm bringing it back to the council. Okay?
So moved.
So moved, and this is for ordinance 2024-07, and so moved, and a second, anybody?
I'll second.
Did I mess up again? All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. That passes unanimously. And so we're going to close the meeting. Did you want to tell us a little bit about Candy?
Sure. So Miss Candy Pierce was a resident of Vallejo, but she was the executive director of CASA of Solano County for the past 14 years. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate, so she was a big advocate and had a very big heart for children in foster care and youth in general. And so we lost her to COVID 2 weeks ago unexpectedly, and I just wanted to make sure that we honor her because not only was she a big part of CASA locally and at the state level, but also, like as I mentioned before, various organizations such as Rotary. I think she did spend a lot of time at the Red Cross. I think Anand Patel mentioned in his post that she was one of the first executive directors of like a Visit Fairfield. So she was involved in a lot, and she sat on a lot of different boards as well in her capacity as executive director. And she had a lot of connections in the community. She was really involved with the base as well. So just wanted to make sure that we honored her because she was a big part of this community and in the nonprofit sector as well.
Thank you for sharing that. She was an incredible woman and a community member. We felt like she was a big part of Fairfield, and she was. So we close in her name and in her honor, and thank you, Councilwoman Panduro. And that's it for us tonight. Thank you.